In Africa, Where Did We Go Wrong? Is an offering on the history of Africa from before colonialism to date. The book analyzes what went wrong and why Africa is still mostly a tattered and begging continent waiting for handouts from the West. Is there an orchestrated conspiracy theory to defeat all purposes of Africa's unity? Well, joining us is Cameroon-born Suhfree Suh, who is the author and a postgraduate student at the University of Johannesburg. Good to have you on the program. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much, Leanne.
All right, so we talk about a book like this. I mean, just what inspired you to write this?
Well, inspirations are anger as an African in the 21st century and the quest for the truth from the Africans themselves and the imperialists and the capitalists who today make Africa seem to be a laughing stock to the world. So after a long research, 5 years and more, I decided to take a look into the history of Africa from its very name, Africa, which unfortunately, Leanne, is not given by Africans. The name Africa was coined by the Romans and the Greeks. And from there I take a look towards the issue of African kingdoms before the white man stepped his feet into Africa. You realize there were great African kingdoms, the Cameroon Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Great Mali Empire, Timbuktu Empire. And these empires were well built, well constructed by Africans, sculptors, engineers. And then the book takes up to colonialism, where you realize that, I call it in my book, the demon. That is the demon that kept Africa into poverty back while others were growing, like look at in comparing to China or India. So now you realize that as a 21st century Pan-African young scholar, we seem to be in more slavery like we were 500 years ago. So I got this anger. Where did we go wrong? And actually, where are we going wrong? Is it the Africans now? Yes. And of course, we blame the imperialism and the colonialists as well.
Well, let's look at the history. So I mean, we've got a history of slavery to colonialism to embezzlement by those that are in power. Where do you think it was that Africa really went wrong?
I think I look at it from the question of a little bit of stupidity towards their hospitality. Africans did everything right before colonialism. But we are looking at the issue of security and the issue of wisdom of the African mind. We expected protectionism of the African state. But when that exposure of the ancient Africa, looking at the beauty, the power that the Asante Kingdom, for example, held, that intro of the I call it the aliens or the imperialist dinosaurs who came in and thwarted Africa. I look at it, I blame the ancient empires for not being enough with the security, and so they failed. But now, with the demon of colonialism that came up, and we had independence, which I called, did we really have independence as Africans? I look at it as a rotten gift of independence, because our forefathers, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Sekou Tourés, the Thomas Sankara, who fought for independence, actually gained it. But unfortunately, the colonialists did not really want to give independence to Africa. Africa took independence, but what they gave Africa was a rotten gift, which I put in my book. And that rotten gift, because Africans were not prepared to rule themselves, Africans were not taught. In fact, the colonialists did not like to give Africa independence in the first place. Now, with the fathers of independence who came up, Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first father of independence in Ghana in the 1957, and then the flow of independence that came to the wind of independence that cut across Africa from the 1960s. Now what? We had those leaders who actually achieved something within their own sector. Looking at the Casablanca bloc and of course the Monrovia bloc. Now the Africans of independence, the fathers, did something at their best. Then they had passed on. This is the 21st century. What is Africa doing? Where are our leaders today taking Africa? The leaders we have today are not the leaders who are taking Africa towards a path where young Africans need to follow. We need think tanks, not cowards.
One of the big things that you look at, and I mean, I think a lot of people have said this, and I think to quote one of the U.S. businessmen who visited Africa and said, Africa certainly does not have a shortage of intellectuals. It has a shortage of great selfless leaders. And I mean that I think is always a question mark on the African continent, is the leaders that are in place right now and where they're taking this continent. Do you focus on that? I mean, I know you highlight Muammar Gaddafi as one of the best leaders in Africa. That's what you say in this book. But I mean, just very quickly, leadership in Africa.
Leadership in Africa, Leanne, is a two-headed sword. Muammar Gaddafi, which I laid out, was not a good leader per se when it comes to domestic policies. Yeah. But when it comes to the issue of Africa's unity, I wrote in this book in chapter 9, where I put it out clear, how the Western imperialists systematically assassinate African leaders. I put Muammar Gaddafi as a father who wanted Africa's unity, being the United States of Africa. I traced that from the Thomas Sankaras, the Samuel Machel, the Sekou Touré, coming up. So now, knowing Muammar Gaddafi as a leader of Libya, like every other leader, they have their own weaknesses. But is he supposed to be killed or assassinated the way he did? Yeah. Because that's one of the fathers who wanted Africa to unite. And if Africa is supposed to kick out all these Western and, of course, imperialist challenges, where we look at today, I went to the Mall of Africa, and there's nothing about Africa in the Mall of Africa. Yeah. I was shocked. There's no Zulu shop, there's no Coastal shop, there's no Cameroon shop, all there's no Nigerian brands. Shop. There's nothing about African in the Mall of Africa. Those are some of the mistakes. Why should our leaders make us a laughing stock of the world?
Interesting. I want to leave it there. I have to leave it there because we've got no time. But how do people get a copy of your book?
Well, you can go to www.africawheredidwegowrong.com. Okay. Or you can contact University of Johannesburg Political Science and International Relations Department, or you can call the author directly on 063-1604-285, and you get a copy of Africa, Where Did We Go Wrong?
Excellent. We'll visit the website if you missed all of that. Africa, Where Did We Go Wrong? That's .co.za.
.com.
I beg your pardon, .com. Yes. And then you can find that information and purchase your copy and read it. Should be really interesting. Good luck with the sales, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure having you here. Suhfree Suh is the author of Africa, Where Did We Go Wrong? All right, let's